Welcome to episode 15 of our ComfyUI tutorial series. Today, I am talking about styles and how to add your own and use them more easily in your workflows. Then, I will discuss running multiple prompts from a file, loading batch images from a folder, adding text overlays to your generations, and more cool stuff. First, we need a custom node. Go to Manager, then Custom Node Manager. Search for itools, and you'll find this ComfyUI itools custom node made by a member of the Pixaroma Discord community. Click Install and wait for it to finish installing. Then click Restart and OK. You can use the Clear button to clear your workflow. Double-click on the canvas and search for itools. Here, you can see all the nodes available in this custom node. Let's start with this one, itools Prompt Styler. If I hover the mouse over the title, you can see it says that it helps you populate your prompt quickly using a template stored in a YAML file. So let's see how it actually works. Let's add some show any nodes. These are part of ComfyUI easy use custom nodes, and you should have them by now. If you followed the other episodes, I will connect the positive and negative outputs to the show any node. Now, if I run the workflow, you can see that there is nothing there because we didn't select any template. Instead of none, I can select a different template like Art Deco, for example, and then add a prompt like a cat. And when I run the workflow, you can see that our prompt is inserted into a different prompt that gives that Art Deco art style. So we have a positive and a negative prompt that comes from that art style selection. If I select something else like a comic book art style and run the workflow, you can see how our prompt changed. All those styles are stored in a file. In this case, the basic YAML file. You can see here we have some that come with the custom nodes. If you go to the ComfyUI folder, then to the custom nodes folder, you can find all your installed nodes. Here we have the itools we just installed. Go inside and look for the styles folder, and here are all the 5 files you saw in that drop-down box. They are all here. If I select a different file, like the camera, you can see here I have different camera names. If I run it, you can see that the camera was added to the prompt, which is our cat. I can select something else like mood and play around with different options. If we go back to the styles folder, you can see here even more styles. Here are the styles that I created and used in previous episodes, plus a few extra ones that I added this week and asked the node creator to include here so you don't have to download them. Right now, they are not active. If you read the README file, you can see it says to move the files you want into the styles folder in order to activate them and then restart the ComfyUI. By the way, here are all the styles split by category. And the pixaroma file has them all in one. To be able to test it, I will just copy all and paste them in the styles folder. I go to Manager, Restart, and click OK. After the restart, if I go to the styles folder, I can see all of them here. Use the mouse wheel to scroll up and down. If I select photography, I can find only photography styles. If I select cinematic and run it, you can see how the cat is added in that cinematic style along with a negative prompt. If I select painting, I can see different painting styles. If you select the pixaroma file, you can access all over 300 art styles. You can just search for a word on top. For example, photography will give you all photography styles and painting will give you painting styles and so on. You get the idea. Now this node is for a single style. If you want one with extra styles, then you can search for itools again and select the one that has extra in the name. This one has 4 different style options, allowing you to combine up to 4 different styles. By default, it loads with 4 different files: basic, camera, artist, and mood. If I select a style from those files, you can see that they are added in order. The first styles are more important than the second, and so on. It's just text that comes one after the other. If you don't want any style active, you just set all to none. You can load the styles that make sense for what you want to do. For example, I can load a painting file category and the art category, so I can choose for painting like digital fantasy game art and for style like cybergoth. This gives me an interesting combination that will create a nice prompt in a few clicks, which can save a lot of time. But let's see how we can implement this in an actual workflow. I am clicking on the load button and loading a basic SDXL workflow from episode 3. You can find all my workflows on Discord. Search for itools and let's add that prompt styler node. In order to connect our node, we need to convert text to input. We do that for both positive and negative prompts, and now we just connect the positive to the text input on positive and the negative to the text input of negative. That's all you need to do. Quite easy, isn't it? I am adding a simple prompt like a cat, and to be able to compare, I will use a fixed seed. If we test the workflow without any style, this is what we get for the cat prompt with that fixed seed. If I choose the Cyberpunk template and test it, the cat will look completely different. If I select a different file like drawing, I can choose a drawing style from the template, such as blue ballpoint pen, and when I run it, I get a nice drawing. If I change to pastel, I get this pastel drawing. If you want to see what the prompts look like, you can add that show any node for both positive and negative prompts, so you have a better idea of how the prompt is combined. If I choose the illustration file, I can select a cartoon character on a white background if I want, and the result looks great. Another style that I like is the flat cute cartoon style. So what if you want to edit the style or add your own styles? If we go to the styles folder, you can see the default ones plus the ones I added. My recommendation is to not edit the default ones. These are the 5: artists, basic, camera, mood, and original. Instead, make a copy and give it a different name, or create categories or file names that make sense for you. You can have one like my prompts, colors, or different art styles depending on what you generate more. Save your favorite prompts into a file like that. The easiest way is just to take an existing file from here, paste it in the styles folder, and rename it. Then, for example, if I want to change something to the illustration file, you can open it with Notepad, but my recommendation is to use Notepad++. If you go on Google and search for Notepad++, you can go to this website. On the left, you have the download option, and you can download and install a version for your system. Then with a right click, you can edit with Notepad++. This is how the file looks, and it needs to keep this format to work. You can see it starts with a line, then a space followed by the name, and then the title you see in the drop-down box. After that, you have the negative and positive prompts. You can see the word prompt in brackets, which you can use in your positive prompt where you want to insert the prompt. For example, a cat was the prompt that was inserted into this text. So the easiest way is just to edit an existing one, like editing the title, positive and negative prompts. You can also select a block, copy, and paste it to add your title, negative and positive prompts. If you don't add your prompt in the brackets like here, then the prompt will be inserted at the beginning of this text. So let's save this file. Now we go back to Manager and restart our ComfyUI. You can now see the style I added in the list. If I run it, you can see that the cat was not inside the text at first because I didn't add the brackets, and then the text from the file follows. Now, how can you mess up the file by mistake? I am speaking from experience since I messed up a few times, but don't worry. You can just delete and start over with a new file, even if you mess up something. You can see that after the column, there is a space. If I remove that, you can see how the word name has changed color, which is easy to notice. Another mistake I made when I copied and pasted was adding an extra space by mistake before the line. This time the colors remain the same, so it was harder to see. If I save it and restart ComfyUI, then select that illustration file, you can see it says loading. Well, that will load forever. If you look at the command window, you can see I got an invalid format error on line 7 and line 15. That's why it's useful to have Notepad++ installed. If I go to line 7, all looks okay, but if I go to line 15, you can see the number 15 here, and this is where my problem is. So I will delete that space, save the file, and restart ComfyUI. It still says loading, but don't worry. This time I just need to reselect that file from the list, and now it says none, which means it worked. I can select any template from that file, and all works well. I am loading a Flux workflow from episode 10. We do the same steps as before. We add the prompt style, but this time the extra one, so we have more styles. Then for the positive prompt, I convert it to text. The Flux doesn't use negative prompts, so we don't need that. We only connect the positive to the text input, and that is all. I like to change the color of nodes to quickly see which are from the same category, so I make the ones with prompts green. Then I add a simple prompt like ACAT, and I am using a fixed seed. Now, keep in mind that Flux doesn't recognize all the art styles that the SDXL model recognizes, but it can still create some cool images, even if it's not the exact art style. I like to select the category file first. So let's say I select a photography, and for the template, I leave it as none for now, which means it's inactive. If I run the workflow, I get this cat. Now, if I select a template from that file, like cinematic, you can see how the image changes when I run the workflow. I can try to add a camera. As you can see, there are some subtle changes. I'm not sure if all cameras are recognized in Flux, but you can use them to get subtle variations. If I select another one, sometimes that can be enough to fix a small mistake. I can also make the camera more important if I put it first. So I change the order and place the camera first and photography as the second style. As you can see, it's a little different. Some of my favorite styles are painting styles like this digital fantasy game art style. Then I combine it with different art styles from the art category. By playing around with different combinations, you can get some nice results with simple prompts and just by switching styles. If you like to experiment a lot like me, then it might be faster to have a single file instead of multiple files that contain all the styles in one. I can load all 4 styles as my pixaroma file, and I don't need to touch that file anymore. I only select the styles from it. This way I can select a painting style and an art style quickly. Only 2 selections instead of 4, or I can select a sculpture with a craft and get something like this. If you don't want to use any style, just set them all to have the value none. I have some cool styles in the experimental one. For example, divine portraiture combined with a better prompt, and another style can give interesting results. Some of the prompts need to be adapted for the style. For example, if I want to do something interior related, I can include an interior prompt and then select the art styles from the list. For example, this dreamlike style always adds clouds and grass inside interiors, creating a surreal look. Or this luxury interior style makes all interiors look more luxurious. I am now loading one of the saved SDXL workflows that I did earlier. This one has only one style, but you can replace it with another node that has extra in the name, which includes multiple styles. We know that the image is ready here in the VAE decode node, and then we can choose to save it or preview it using either the save or preview node. Search for itools again and add the add text overlay node. This node lets you add text on top of the image. So if I connect the decode node to the image input and then the image output to save image, the image will run through this node before it's saved. Where it says text, I can add my own text. It can be a name, a prompt, or any text that you want to appear over the image. If I run the workflow, you can see here that it added the text. I can change the font size, and now when I run it, the font is larger. I can put a longer prompt there and test it. When overlay mode is true, that means it's on top of the image. If I turn it off, the text will go under the image, making the final image a little taller. I will turn it back on. Right now, the color code has AA after the code, which means it has alpha or transparency active. If I remove that, you can see it's not transparent anymore. That is visible only when the overlay mode is active. You can also use basic colors like blue and other colors, or you can use a color picker from Photoshop or go on Google and use that color picker to select a color and copy that hex value. Now, if I paste it here, I can get exactly the color I want. If I add the AA, I can activate alpha as well. That's how I remember to put AA. I think of it as activate alpha. Of course, you can do more complex stuff with it. If I convert the text to input, I can drag a connection from the positive prompt to the text input. This way, it will take that prompt and put it on top of the image. Of course, now it's too big. I can either turn off overlay or just make the font smaller. If I set it to 20, we can now see both the image and the prompt. If I turn off overlay, the text goes under the image. The text is always white, so I select the dark colors or just use black, as that provides good contrast and is visible. I will clear this canvas and let's search for tools again. This time select load images. As you can see, it needs a path from where it takes the images, and you can set a limit for how many images to take. The default is set to the first 4, but I can change that to any value I want. I have this folder with 6 images, so I will go to the address bar and copy the path. Then I paste it here where it says image directory. Okay, the node is set. Now, what do we do with those images? We can preview or save them, so I add a save node. Now, if I run that, it just loads the images from that folder and saves them in the output folder. If you click on one, you can see it bigger. And from the bottom right, you can navigate through different images. If I set the limit to 2, it only loads the first 2 images. If I set it to 6, I get 6 images. I will leave it at the default value for now. Let's add the overlay node we used earlier. So we load the images from the folder, use this node to add a text overlay, then save them. I add the text pixaroma and a maroon color. I run the workflow and I get text on all those images quite fast. Of course, there are many ways you can use this batch image loader. For example, I can search for the image crop node and put it here between the nodes. Now it's cropped to that exact image size. Right now, the coordinates are set to the top left at 0. If I change it to 512, it will be the bottom right. If I put half, I get a crop of only the center in this case. So you need to adapt the values based on your image sizes. In the output, you can find all those saved images. I will load a workflow from episode 12 with the upscaler. Now, instead of the load image node that only loads one image, I can add the other one from itools that loads more images at once, and I just redo the connection. Now, if I try to run it, of course, I get an error because I didn't set a path from where to take the images. So I copy the path and paste it in the image directory field. Now, if I run the workflow, I will get an upscale for all those images. The thing is that you will not get a preview after each image is upscaled. You will only see the result when all are finished. So it's a good idea to test on one image first by setting the limit to 1. If that works how you want it, then try with more images. Here are all the images upscaled. It seems that it works in Comparer also, but you need to compare the same number. For example, A1 compared with B1, A2 with B2, and so on. In the output folder, you can find all the images there. Sometimes you might want to use a certain prompt for image upscale, or maybe you are using image to image and want a different prompt for each image. So I am manually adding the prompt in the image name for each of the images. I make sure I update my directory since I moved the images to a different folder than where I have the positive prompt. I convert the text to input and take the image's name output, connecting it to the text input. I can even add show any node to ensure it takes the image names. When I run the workflow, you can see it takes that prompt from each image and it is used as a prompt during the upscale process, which is quite useful. I will load a basic SDXL workflow from episode 3 again. This time I want to show you how to run multiple prompts from a file. From the same itools node, add the prompt loader. This one by default runs all the prompts from a text file. We can find that text file if we go to the itools node folder and look for examples. Here you can find all kinds of examples that you can play around with, but there's also this prompt text file. You can add your prompts to this file, one prompt per line. However, I like to have my prompt file somewhere that I can access easily. So you can create a new text file in a location that is convenient for you and give it a name. I will name it My Prompts. Inside, you can add your prompts. I will add 5 random prompts just so we can test. Then I save the file. Now, we need the path to that text file. In Windows 11, you can just right-click and select Copy as Path. In Windows 10, you have the Copy Path option in the Home menu. So I copy the path, and then in the File Path field, I paste that path. In this case, the seed represents the position line in that text file. 0 is the first one, 1 is the second one, and so on. The control after generate can be random or choose increment. Now, of course, to be able to connect, we need to convert text to input, and then we can connect it. You can add a show preview node if you want to see what prompt it got from the text file. When I run it, you can see that it loaded the first prompt and the seed incremented to value 1. If I run it again, I get the second prompt, then the third prompt, and so on. If I change to randomize, I get a random value. Let me show you how you can quickly get a list of prompts. I am using ChatGPT and asked for 5 stable diffusion prompts for a cute cartoon bunny and to not include quotes. I received a list that I can copy and paste into that prompt's text file. Now it's important to remove all extra spaces because they create new lines which will be considered empty prompts, causing the generation of something random. I can turn off word wrap to see the lines better, and now I can remove the spaces between them. I save the file and let's test it. I will leave it set to random and it all works fine. It gives me random prompts from that text file. This is how I like to do it. I set it to increment so I know it takes all the prompts in order, then check extra options and enable auto queue. Now, when I run it, it will continue running indefinitely. You can check the output folder after a few minutes or hours to see what you got. To stop it, you need to turn off auto queue. That's it for today. I want to thank the legends for your support and everyone who has joined the YouTube membership. Your super thanks, likes, and comments really help this channel grow, allowing me to spend more time creating the best tutorials for everyone. Thanks a lot and have a great day.